What's up, everybody? This is Fred Richani of TSC. In this interview, we chat with filmmaker John Makens, the man behind the story of Jim Phillips in a documentary called Art and Life, covering the legendary skateboard and surfboard artist.
I'm somebody that just really loved it and admired it and brought it forward and found a home for it.
He set the bar. Everything was compared to him.
Came from surf world, hot rod world, rock world, and I was going like, I'd rather work with this guy way more than the other dude. I mean, to me, this dude has more soul.
You're all fired! You're all fired!
And the mantra is everything else fails and that succeeds. That's all you care about. When an idea comes to you out of nowhere, that's the real thing. So that's what you pay attention to.
You've seen his work. Mr. Jim Phillips is here.
Surfing and skateboard artist, Jimmy Phillips.
The volume of work that he has done is just beyond anything I've ever known.
He changed art on skateboards forever.
Screaming Hand, Rob Rosscott, all that stuff is like that.
John, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, Art and Life, the story of Jim Phillips, a fantastic documentary about the legendary skateboard, surfboard artist, Jim Phillips. How did you come up with this concept, and why was this the right time to tell a story?
Grew up skating, loving Jim's art, and was surrounded by it everywhere. And, you know, he was the reason I wanted to become an artist, and finally got to meet him, and he's just had all this inspiring stories. You know, he was like, you know, I finally got to meet my hero, and he exceeded my expectations, sort of thing. So I just wanted, you know, I felt like a lot of people shared that same feeling about Jim and with how they're inspired by his art. So I just wanted to you know, share that with everyone else and get his story out there.
Yeah, he's a very underrated, kind of unsung hero. I believe in the trailer it says, and I'm paraphrasing here, that he was like kind of like this accidental famous person.
Yeah,
kind of became an icon and everything. So with that being said, was he a difficult guy to track down and to get involved when you were starting to start the concept of this film?
No, he was just, that was the thing. He was like just very humble, normal, very kind person, you know, just and we got along right off the bat. I reached out to him to do some design work, and yeah, we became friends right away, just talk about surfing and skating and all that, and then kind of one thing led to another, and all of a sudden we're making a movie about him. But yeah, he's amazing, and really easy to work with, and so it was yeah, quite a joy.
You said you grew up on his art. So what came first for you? Was it the sports aspect? Was his art? Was it kind of hand in hand?
You know, I started skateboarding when I was like 6 years old, and just the whole just the culture of it, and walking into a skate shop and there's just art everywhere, and like monsters and gore and blood, you know, and like those things were cool back then when you were a kid, you know. Yeah, he just like stood out from everything else. It was just like, wow, like this. And back then I didn't even know like who he was. It was just his art that was speaking to me, you know. So yeah, that was like that was it. That was the hook. And that was you know, I spent so much time just redrawing his art, and that kind of taught me how to be an artist and pursue that. But that was the inspiration right there, you know.
And just on a personal note about you, so how did that lead you to filmmaking?
Well, so at the time I was working in film, you know, kind of freelancing and doing my own projects, and then I approached Jim about the movie, and at first he was kind of like, you know, why would anyone want to see a movie about me? You know, like this, like no one's going to want to watch that. And I was like, well, like, yeah, there's, you know, you have a whole world of people that want to watch it. Like he didn't really realize how like big of an influence he had, you know? So he's a very humble person. I kind of jumped into it. Like this is my first documentary. So that was, you know, part of the reason it took so long, because I wanted to like do it perfectly. You know, just wanting to share a story was the motivation behind it, you know, and just kind of everything just came together from there.
And you mentioned it kind of took a while. I saw another interview you did where I believe you said it took 12 years to make this film, which is quite a
Yeah.
bit, and we see a lot of old footage, including, at the beginning from like 2016. So why did it take so long to put this out? And why do you feel like this is now the right time? That you're like, all right, this is the finished product.
Yeah, we started in 2011. It took 12 years, and there was many reasons it took a while. I mean, number one, Jim's volume of artwork is so massive. So just taking, everything and digitizing it and scanning it, that took years, and then animating everything. And then we had like endless hours of interview footage. So just like compiling everything together. Also, it's just like financial, trying to put a movie out is not very cheap. So trying to figure out that side. But yeah, and then just working with like a skeleton crew of people, like when you should have like 100 people working on a film, it's like, so a lot of challenges, but I think the timing, everything worked out perfectly. I wouldn't change anything, I guess. I think the timing's perfect. When we completed it, it's like when you're in the moment in a project, you're kind of like, oh man, I can't wait for this thing to end, kind of like you just want to complete it. But like, I think the moment you kind of just embrace it, and it's gonna finish when it's ready to finish, And I think once I kind of realized that and accepted that, things just kind of ran a little more smoothly, and yeah, it just kind of came together the way it should, and finished up, at the right time.
For sure. And do you feel like this is kind of the right time now that, maybe if you had released it, say 10 years ago or so, it would not get the distribution it's getting now. I mean, now there's a lot more film festival circuits. There's a lot more streaming platforms. Yes, it's kind of saturated, but there's also it still costs money, but it seems like there's kind of less barrier of entry. Would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And also, I mean, just the way the way they're viewed, and, like everything changes so quickly, like people aren't really going into theaters as much, and it's like everything's done online and Instagram. And so like in the past 10 years, like everything's like the whole model's changed as well. So I think it would have been a lot different if we finished it 10 years ago, and the way the way it was presented and got out there. So now there's all these new platforms and ways to distribute it, to your point, So yeah, I think the timing's great. The skate industry's strong. I think there's a lot of people that arts, everyone's seen Jim's art everywhere. So it's like whether they know it or not, they'll see it, recognize it. It's just like a cool story, and I think it's really cool that people can learn about the artist behind the art they've been seeing around their whole lives.
Do you think now we're in an era where people want more real, and that'll resonate more with Jim's story?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like he always referred it as like old world versus new world art, and like you said, it's like it cost him 50 cents to be an artist, and he's just hand dipped ink, like drawing. People don't do that anymore. People are most art's computer generated and all that, but he has all these like old world techniques that I think is very interesting, and is kind of lost art. So people who are older and live through that time, can kind of are more familiar with that, but it's still cool to learn and how he integrated kind of those old techniques into the new world, and then still like just everything he did is just stood the test of time and is iconic, so it's pretty awesome how he kind of bridged that gap between old and new, and just keeps it going.
Is there anything that when you're going through these challenges that you learned about yourself and about Jim in the making of this film?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, just like, it's easy to kind of just lose momentum and give up, you know? So I think just keeping going was like the biggest challenge, and just like figuring it out. Like, all right, there's, you run into some walls, but just figuring out how to navigate for myself and making this. And then for Jim, I mean, we share his story and kind of the challenges he faced, and I think it's kind of a similar theme of just like keep going, remain in your little like positive, bubble, and he just focus on art and just no matter what happened, he would make it through. And I think everyone can kind of relate to that in life, and learn from that when we all face challenges and how to overcome.
So would you say that's one thing you'd want, say, young artists watching this, taking away from that, to kind of stay on the grind, be resilient, and kind of trust their own process?
Like what Jim always like, he just loved art. Like that was his thing. And I think that was the reason he did so well, like you can see it in his art. Like he just, like, it's just like vibing, like for anyone who wants to become an artist, I think that's kind of the feeling and to have, like you just got to love it, and you got to just like, you got to be all in, like you can't be kind of divided on it. It's like that's it or not.
Well said. Well, we appreciate the time, man. Definitely looking forward to seeing people check out this documentary. Before we let you go, if people aren't already convinced, why should they check out Art and Life?
I mean, if you want to be inspired, if you want to get off your couch and learn something you didn't know before, and be inspired to maybe find that inner artist in you, that'd be a good reason.
Definitely check out Art and Life, the story of Jim Phillips. Before we let you go, where can people find you online, and where can we find the film next?
Art and Life movie.com. You can see all the show times, what's coming up. It's just releasing in the theaters now, so see what showings near you. And I don't know, I'm pretty hard to find online, so maybe this interview will come out.
The good news is the film is very easy to find online, so that's good. As long as we can find that, we're good. We'll find you eventually.
All right.